choices for you and your family. Cook it, give it. You'll love when you live it. L-I-V-E, live it.
Welcome everybody. I'm Andrea Miller and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers in Bryan. I'd like to welcome our live audience and viewers at home to Live It Umami. Today I have a special guest with me, Ben Fizer. He's the director of the IT department here at the hospital. So Ben, I have one question for you.
What's that?
What is umami?
It's a taste. It's the fifth taste.
He did some research.
Right?
He did some research before today.
Yeah.
He's right. It's the fifth taste. Can you name the other four tastes?
No.
Oh, trivia question. All right, audience participation. Who can name the other four tastes? Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami is the fifth one. So there's actually no word in the English language to describe what umami is. I believe it's of Japanese origin. And most people describe it as like a savory or meaty flavor. So actually when we asked Ben to be the sous chef, he said, can we do something with meat? So yes, in fact, we are going to do something with meat today, I promise. We're going to do a crock pot pork tenderloin.
Fantastic.
And then we're also going to incorporate that meaty flavor in our vegetable recipes today as well. So we're going to have a lot of fun with the umami flavor that we're using today. So, like I said, we're doing a crock pot pork tenderloin, and then the vegetables we're doing a grilled marinated mushroom skewer. So mushrooms have that umami flavor profile as well, that meaty profile. And then we're going to be adding the marinade. It has soy sauce. You actually have some options here. We can either do soy sauce, tamari, or coconut aminos, which I'll describe what those are here in a second. And our third recipe today is a foil pack grilled Brussels sprout. So we got some requests for like something you can do over a campfire. So that would be a great recipe. You could do that while you're camping as well. So everybody in our audience today, their take home is either tamari, which looks like this, or coconut aminos. So they're all very similar to soy sauce. The difference is, I'll start with soy sauce. This is the one that most people are familiar with. I believe Chinese origin would be the soy sauce. Soy sauce is traditionally brewed with wheat, so it's not traditionally gluten-free, although this one does happen to be gluten-free. So usually soy sauce is not gluten-free, but this one does happen to be. Usually it's brewed with wheat. Tamari is also soy-based. It's the Japanese version of soy sauce. It does not have any wheat in it ever. I guess some could be not gluten-free, so you always want to double check that if that's something you're concerned about. I tried it for the first time. I should make Ben try it. I don't have well, I could make you try it.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever.
But anyway, it has more of a pungent flavor, I guess, than soy sauce. And then coconut aminos, for people that are gluten intolerant and avoid soy, here's your option right here. It's made with the sap from a coconut tree blossom, I guess, a coconut blossom. They tap the sap just like you would like a maple tree for maple syrup. And then it has sea salt in it. This is actually very low sodium compared to the soy and the tamari, much less sodium in this. So people that are following a low sodium diet, this would also be a very good option. So let's get started with our mushroom recipe. Right now we're going to use some fresh herbs in it. I have some fresh thyme. We're also going to use a couple garlic cloves in here. And I think for this one, let's go ahead and use the coconut aminos for this one. I'm going to give Ben the bowl and the coconut aminos. We're going to do a tablespoon of the coconut aminos in this recipe. And while he's doing that, I'm going to start taking the leaves off of my thyme. I already did a couple, but basically for thyme, you hold on to the top, and then you just carefully pull the leaves off, like that.
And just right in here right now?
Yep,
You're
right
ready?
in the bowl,
All right.
yep. Go for it. All right, so you need about a teaspoon of thyme, or a half teaspoon of fresh thyme, and maybe like a quarter or an eighth of a teaspoon of dried thyme, because you need less of the dried thyme. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that just kind of a rough chop. And we're also going to be using balsamic vinegar in this recipe. So I'm going to throw the thyme on in. And then I'm going to have Ben measure out some balsamic vinegar.
How much of that do we
We're going to do
need?
2 tablespoons of the balsamic vinegar. And while he's doing that, I'm going to chop my garlic. So I always hit the garlic with the side of my chef knife.
I've got to tell you, I'm impressed. The time, like I would have, like you knew how much that was off the knife. I would have had to find another utensil and
Yeah,
put it in
and
there and measure it.
you know
and be
what?
all paranoid about it. So.
Sure. Yeah, you can totally be flexible with the amount of thyme that you use in this recipe. Just kind of eyeball it to taste, I suppose. It looked like about a half a teaspoon to me, so I have that dietitian eye, though.
Maybe I'll get better as the more I do this,
Exactly,
right?
the more you
So-
cook. So I'm just chopping my garlic up. Ben, what you were saying you like to cook a little bit at home for yourself. What do you like to cook for yourself at
Well,
home?
since it's just me, I might go buy a nice New York strip. So I do
There
a lot
you
of
go.
grilling, and then a lot of like crock pot tacos.
Okay, so you're familiar with the crock pot.
The research I did online basically said all you need to be a great cook is a crock pot.
Yes.
So,
I totally
so,
agree with
I
that.
mean, I'm definitely familiar with a crock pot, but I would like to expand it a little bit because it does get old having the same stuff.
Sure.
So.
All right, we're gonna.
That might be why I'm not married.
I did not hear any
I
comments
just heard
that were
something
made.
about married. And
So we threw in 3 cloves of garlic and then a little bit of pepper. And again, this is something I'm just going to kind of
She's
sprinkle a
eyeballing
little
it.
bit in. And then I'm going to have Ben just take a whisk and whisk that together. And then we're going to start cutting up our mushrooms. So we haven't done mushrooms ever before. I really love this recipe because it really is a simple recipe for mushrooms, and it really maximizes all the flavor that's in mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I come from a family that we grew up eating a lot of mushrooms, especially mushrooms that my parents would like go forage in the wild. So lots of mushrooms in our family. Really simple. All we're going to do is slice them in half, and then we're going to toss them in the marinade. So I promised Ben I'd let him use a
right.
chef knife a little bit, so everybody watch out.
we'll see how this goes, huh?
Yep, so we're just slicing them in half. You just need them, you don't want them too small for this recipe. Again, we're going to skewer these, put them on the grill. If they're too small, you're going to have a hard time putting them on the skewer. So we have about 2 pounds here that we're slicing in half. Again, if they're pretty small mushrooms, you really wouldn't even have to slice them in half. Just go ahead and put them in the marinade whole. Mushrooms are a good source of selenium and vitamin D. Some mushrooms are actually really high in vitamin D. If they're grown under certain lights, you can get nearly 100% of your daily value of vitamin D. And some types of mushrooms, they would be labeled that way, though. So, all right, what food group do mushrooms fall in, Ben?
I'm assuming vegetables.
Yeah, so most people think of them as a vegetable, but actually they're a fungus,
Oh.
so they're not even a vegetable.
Gotcha.
I don't know that that's a food group, though. Is
Okay,
it fungus?
not one of the ones that I learned in school, I don't think, so.
So, yeah. All right. Yeah, we just have these rinsed First, you want to rinse the dirt off of them, since I don't know many people that want to eat, dirt. So rinse the dirt off of them, but you don't want to like soak them in water. You just want to give them maybe a light rinse to get some of the dirt off. Or some people even just take like a paper towel and rub the dirt off too. That's acceptable, so you don't kind of waterlog them, I guess. And then I'll just have you grab one of the spoons down there and just kind of toss them. We did the mushrooms first because you want to let those set for about a half an hour or more, just to kind of get the flavors into the mushroom.
Now, am I trying to get some of this marinade on all of it, or
If
what?
you can, yeah, just kind of mix it
Okay.
up so most of them have a little bit of marinade on them.
Oftentimes, I'm going back to my tablet trying to make sure I'm doing everything right. So
That's right.
That's why I'm asking you questions.
And I'm looking at all these recipes. A lot of them have really similar ingredients today. A lot of the like the soy sauce or alternative vinegar, olive oil, things like that. So very similar ingredients today. So I'm going to be checking some of my recipes as well, making sure I'm not missing anything. So that's looking awesome. Looks really good. So you can see they're kind of coated in the marinade, and I'm just going to set this aside for just a few minutes while we get the other recipes going. The next recipe we're doing is our honey mustard Brussels sprouts. Originally, we were going to put these on a skewer as well, but then I went home and I tried to skewer Brussels sprouts, and that is not the easiest thing in the world to do. I about had a skewer through the palm of my hand. So we switched it, and I actually like it better this way. We're going to put it in a foil pack.
Okay.
So
A quick question, like these mushrooms and the Brussels sprouts, I mean, I know they're vegetables or fungus, so they're supposed to be probably good.
Absolutely.
If you're someone trying to watch carbs,
Yeah.
which I'm always like trying to watch, but really I probably just need to do calories in, calories out. Is this considered like a lowish carb, or is
Yep,
it, is it healthy, or?
Yeah, definitely. They're both very healthy recipes, and they're lower on the carb. And we're going to add a little bit of honey to the Brussels sprout, so that's going to add a little bit of carbohydrate, but not a ton. All vegetables do have a small amount of naturally occurring carbohydrate, but that's a healthy type of carbohydrate.
Right.
So I definitely wouldn't cut any of those out of your diet. So,
Sounds
but yeah,
good.
they are. If you were preparing this as a meal, it would be pretty low on the carb end.
Sounds
So, all right. So the Brussels sprouts, again, those we're just going to cut in half and put those in a marinade as well. So we're going to get started on our marinade for that one. I'll give Ben the bowl, and I think for this one we're going to use some tamari in there, and we're going to do a 1/4 cup of the tamari. I think soy and tamari are pretty similar as far as the cost. I will be honest with you, I hadn't tried soy or tamari until today, so I haven't actually purchased that myself. But I think the last time I saw them, they were pretty similar in cost, maybe a little bit more expensive for the tamari. But I don't think it was a lot. So I know the coconut aminos are quite a bit more pricey though, running about $7.50 a bottle. And I did have to buy those on Amazon. So.
Should I be wiping this stuff
Oh
down?
no,
when
you're
I'm done?
fine. You're
Okay.
fine.
All
No
right.
cleaning involved.
All right.
We're actually now we're
Unfortunately,
gonna.
at home there's
I
cleaning,
know.
but okay.
At home there's cleaning. Today you can get away with not cleaning up.
Sounds good.
We're gonna do 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there, and if you're trying to watch the fats, you can't always cut back. I think 2 tablespoons is good though. Again, olive oil is a healthy type of monounsaturated fat, so a little bit's okay in there. And then we're gonna do a tablespoon of honey. So I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to have you use that exact same tablespoon there. I recently discovered this myself, and I was like, why didn't I think of this before? So I'm going to pour the honey right in there. The one that I had just put the oil in, and now watch, it'll slide right out, and none of it will stick.
Ooh, impressive.
Why didn't I ever think of that before? So you get all the honey, the full tablespoon in that recipe. All right, so we have the honey, and then we're going to do some mustard, because this is a honey mustard Brussels sprout slaw, and we're going to use a Dijon mustard with like you can see like the whole grain actually in it. I'm gonna use a different tablespoon for this one. Oh no. You know what? We might have to use a half tablespoons and do 2 of them.
Oh.
It won't fit. So we'll do a full tablespoon of the mustard.
I don't know if I have a half tablespoon.
Uh-oh. We can do 3 teaspoons too.
Okay.
3 teaspoons makes a tablespoon. So yeah, do 3 of those. And again, this is something that if the measurements aren't exact, you're gonna be able to get away with it. You can kind of eyeball this a little bit. So, and then this is optional, but I really like it. I like spicy food, so I like a little bit of crushed red pepper in here. I'm just gonna do a pinch. Do you like spicy food?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we'll do 2 pinches of crushed red pepper.
All right.
I think it gives it a nice flavor. And then go ahead and
whisking.
whisk that.
It's the SUV sales event going on now at Bryan Ford Lincoln. We have a tremendous selection of SUVs featuring the totally new Ford EcoSport and the best-selling Escape, Edge, and Explorer with savings of up to $7,000, and we have a tremendous selection. Front-wheel drives, all-wheel drives, cloth seating, leather seating, with and without power sunroofs. But if we don't have the exact vehicle, we can find it, usually within 24 hours. Come out today to Bryan Ford Lincoln and drive one.
We really honestly could use the same whisk for all of these, but. And then the Brussels sprouts, to trim up the Brussels sprouts, I usually cut like the bottom part off of it a little bit if it looks kind of brown. And then if there's any distressed leaves, I trim those off too, cut them in half. And then those are just gonna go right in the marinade. So then I'll let you
I'll take some of those.
take some of those.
All right.
And if the outer leaves don't look that bad, just go ahead and cut them in half.
Have you already cut the bottom part off? Or
It
I
looks
need to do
okay.
that?
You can probably just go ahead and cut them right
Okay.
in half. Again, if there are any distressed leaves or leaves that don't look good, you can always just go ahead and take those off. But these all look pretty good. And again, these are washed, so you'll want to wash your Brussels sprouts. And these you can soak in water for a little bit. Be careful with Brussels sprouts. I got some recently that had like a bunch of little like worms and worm eggs in them, so they can get kind of in between some of those leaves. Not that they would necessarily hurt you, but just kind of look at them as you're cutting them up and make sure. Protein, yeah. Eating bugs is like huge.
See, now I was like looking forward to trying this, and now I'm probably going to be leery again. So.
You would see them. If they're
Okay.
there, you will see them. And again, it's just more protein, Ben.
All right.
More protein. Other cultures eat lots of bugs. It's going to catch on in America, too. You just wait. So Brussels sprouts, a lot of people, I guess this is probably the one vegetable that most people come into my office and they're always discussing with me what vegetables they'll eat and which ones they won't. And sometimes it's only like corn and peas, but usually Brussels sprouts is one that people have a hard time with. Did you eat Brussels sprouts growing up as a kid?
If I was forced to, probably.
See,
but
I think it stems from that. Like
Right.
we were forced to eat Brussels sprouts as kids, and like maybe our mom boiled them in water, and they got like this squishy.
And then
waterlogged.
probably it only happened once or twice, and then they were sick of the argument. So then,
Yeah.
So.
So didn't do it anymore. But these
Yeah.
these are not going to soak up water. These are going to soak up all of the stuff we just
All
put in
right,
our
yes.
marinade. The honey, the mustard, the balsamic vinegar, which I love cooking balsamic vinegar because it kind of intensifies and gets more sweet. And those are going to just saturate the Brussels sprouts and make them delicious. And then once you're done cooking them, you get to sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on
Nice.
top of them, which is that umami flavor. So super delicious. Go ahead and give those
Mix
a
them
stir. And I am going to grab a piece of foil. Now, at home, my foil was a little bit, I guess, the width wasn't as much, so I needed 2 pieces of foil kind of set in a cross to wrap around to make like a little package. But this is a pretty big piece of foil, so I'm just going to use 1 piece here.
That's good enough? Or?
So good, yeah.
All right.
All right, so I'm just going to have you dump that right in the middle of my foil. Hopefully we don't get juice everywhere. Perfect. And then I'm just going to wrap it up like a little package. And this can go right on your grill while you're cooking your meat, your steak or whatever. It will take a little bit longer to cook than your steak probably, because if I imagine you're not cooking your steak well done.
No,
Okay.
no. So when the winter months come and I'm not grilling,
Yeah.
is it okay to put it like on the electric stove? And this is a
I
bachelor
would-
question.
Yeah,
You know?
I would put that in your oven. I
Okay,
would do it in your
okay.
oven. If set your oven to 400, stick it in your oven, and that will be fine as well. Or again, you could put it over some charcoal, not in the summer,
Right,
not in
yeah,
the winter
in
in
the
your
winter,
house,
yeah,
but if you're
yeah.
out camping
Okay.
or something, put it over the fire. So, yeah. And when it's done, and I have all of the stuff on this plate, but it's going to look kind of like that.
It's pretty impressive.
So, and it takes about 20 minutes or so on high heat for it to cook on the grill, or same in the oven, or probably on your campfire as well.
Okay.
All right, let's get started on that meat marinade. Our last one. So again, a lot of very similar flavors here. We actually already have our pork tenderloin in the crock pot. I'll let you take the lid off.
Oh, yeah. Good.
So we have 2 pounds of pork tenderloin in there, and you can see how lean it is. There's not a lot of fat on that tenderloin, which is good because I would highly recommend serving this pork tenderloin with the juices, the cooking liquid that you get. So pork can sometimes get dry. It's not as likely to get dry in the crock pot because it's cooking with all that moisture, and then again, if you serve it with the juices, it's just super delicious.
All right.
So we're going to make our marinade in here, and we're going to start out with another cup of soy or tamari, whatever you...
A quarter cup or?
Yes, a quarter cup. Coming out slow this time, huh? Okay, and then this one we're going to put yellow mustard in instead of the Dijon, and we need about 1.5 teaspoons and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Add that in. And then this one, to sweeten it up, we're going to use some maple syrup. And 2 tablespoons of that, or 3, sorry, 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. And then we're going to add some onion powder and garlic powder. So we need a teaspoon of the onion powder, which I had to leave the labels on this.
And here's the onion powder.
Okay, so we need a teaspoon of that.
I think all my teaspoons are messed up.
I'll give you mine.
All right, thank you.
And then a teaspoon and a half of the garlic, so we can kind of.
Just,
You know what?
is
Just
that
pour
probably
that
a
all
teaspoon?
in. Yeah, go ahead and pour it all
I
in.
look close enough. She taught me, right? We can eyeball it. So,
And then I'm just gonna, that looks like about a teaspoon
Yeah.
and a half. We're just gonna dump that all in too. All right, and then we're gonna give that a whisk. And then we also need a little bit of onion. This one is, I'll let you whisk
All right,
that while I
sounds good.
chop the onion. So I'm gonna get off some of the peeling. You only need about a 1/4 cup, so you don't need a lot of onion. You could also, if you're a fancy cook, use shallot in this recipe. But I
I'll have
never.
to look up what shall means,
It's
but
like
okay,
a
yeah.
fancy small onion.
Because I'm going to be a fancy cook after today. So.
You might be. You're look at him. Look at those whisking skills.
Is there a certain consistency this should have, or I mean, like
That's
there's a couple little
perfect.
lumps
That's
in there.
perfect.
So.
It's not gonna.
All right.
Okay. All right. So the onion, I'm just gonna kind of do some slices in both directions, and finely dice this. And I'm not gonna measure this either. I'm just gonna trust that it's gonna turn out okay.
Sounds good.
I'm just gonna put the onion in there. That's actually probably a little more than a 1/4 cup. So, okay. Then we're gonna
Mix this around,
yep,
or
stir that
okay.
together. Just have a Brussels sprout leaf in there. Okay. All right. So that's it. And then just go ahead and take the lid off first, and then pour it over the
Oh, okay.
the pork loin. Perfect. That looks great. And then that's going to cook for about 4 to 5 hours on low. So, yeah, on the weekend,
Set a timer.
set a
and-
timer, and you have a wonderful dinner a couple hours later.
Absolutely.
So those are our 3 recipes for today. We've done 2 vegetable recipes and our
Tenderloin.
meat,
Yeah.
but we have one last step we have to do. We have to skewer our Brussels sprout or our mushrooms and get those cooking. So we can do that here. So we actually have a grill pan that we're going to get those cooking real quick. I'm going to start preheating that, and I'm going to give you a skewer.
Okay.
So our mushrooms were marinating. I almost forgot about them. They're over there getting all those delicious flavors on them. And I'm actually
there a
going to have you,
special-
yeah, so what we're going to do
Okay.
is,
Just under the stem.
yeah, so like under the stem and then up through the top, because you kind of want them to all have that contact with your heat. So they're all like going the same way. Perfect. And we're 30 minutes is recommended, but I won't make you sit here any longer to wait for them to marinate. So we're going to get them cooking. I am going to brush this with a little bit of olive oil, just so they don't stick. That is plenty hot. We're just going to do 2 skewers right now. Obviously at home you'll skewer them all. I'm going to put them cut side
All right.
down right onto our heat surface. And you can kind of press them down. If you don't want to skewer, another thing you can do is just put them directly on your heat surface like that. Like if you have an indoor grill pan, that would be a really good option. Do you have an indoor grill pan?
No.
They're kind of nice. I recently got one and I kind of like it, but I did try to cook steaks on it one day.
Wasn't the
It was not the best.
okay.
Not the best. It was smoking. It wasn't the meat that was smoking, it was the marinade, and it set the fire alarm off.
That's happened a couple times at my house, so don't
And
feel bad.
that is why I
okay?
cook with the crock
All
pot.
right, yeah. So,
Yeah, it was bad. I had to finish cooking the steak in the broiler, or under the broiler in the oven. So they'll actually probably cook a little bit faster if they're not on the skewers. But again, on the grill outside, you
Yeah.
kind of want the skewer because it's going to hold everything together.
okay.
And you don't want it to fall through the cracks
Right.
of your grill.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. So while that's cooking, I can show you what the steak the pork loin looks once it's cooked. And again, I'd recommend drizzling some of the cooking sauces over that. Again, our mushrooms are going to look like that when they're done. So we're going to let those cook away. While those are cooking, does anybody have any questions?
It's okay if the plate doesn't look that nice, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we have these beautiful edible flowers. No, I don't expect you to go out in your garden and pick the edible flowers. But
All right.
yeah, you know what? All that matters is that you're getting good, nutritious, whole foods on your plate. And as far as what they look like in the end, in my opinion, that's not so important.
I think we can manage
So,
that.
yeah.
So, great.
So these are looking. Any questions from our audience? You can see these are kind of indoor grill pans do kind of smoke a little bit, but. I believe in Chief you can find tamari, and it would be near the soy sauce. So it'd be right next to the soy sauce. So, yeah, any other questions? Let's turn one of these over so you can see. Trying to get some grill marks on here. Woo. And I might find that I'm just going to use my hands. So you can see that some of them are starting to get that like caramelized brown. Definitely, like these have it.
Okay.
You can even take, we didn't do all the mushrooms here, but if you have some extra marinade, you can take some of that marinade and brush it over the top.
So, and I noticed you were getting your fingers kind of in there. So one thing my grandma taught me, and I've taken with me for all my days, is if you burn your finger a little bit, you're just supposed to touch your ear, and it goes right away. So just keep that in mind if you
I'm
need
going to have to try that the next time.
Yeah, and it just works, or else I'm just, like maybe it's placebo, but.
You know what my grandpa would say?
What's that?
Spit on it.
Oh, well, okay. So.
So.
And if you touch your ear, you probably wash your hands or whatever, but it has seemed to work so far in my life. So,
So either spit on it or
Yeah,
touch your
yeah,
ear per the wisdom
I
of our
like that.
grandparents.
Yeah. And the burn will go away.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll let these finish cooking here. Did you want to try one, Ben?
I will brave it. I usually don't eat mushrooms, but I will try one because hopefully it becomes a staple in my repertoire.
I would let it cool. These are pretty well done.
All right.
But again, blow on it
Let
a little
cool.
bit.
All right, yeah.
And thank
It's
you
not gonna burn my ears, so.
thank you so much for coming, Ben, and joining me today. And thanks to our
Thank you
audience
for having me.
and
That
our
was
viewers
great,
at home.
actually, so.